Welcome to AI in War Crimes, a special edition of the Urban Labs. And it's a very interesting thing. What we are essentially going to discuss in various details is what is war crime, was partition of India war crime, and most importantly, what exactly is the information which AI will look into. In case of partition of India, there were two pieces of information which we can understand. One is the visible reason why India was partitioned, because Hindus and Muslims cannot stay together. This is the visible reason. But there was an invisible reason, which was the great power politics. For example, there was a country called India, which was controlled by Britain in 1947. Britain was involved in a World War II, and they said that, look, we do not have the measures and resolve to control India anymore, so we can just leave. But they did not just leave. Before leaving, it was partitioned. So why was it partitioned and how was it partitioned? The partition of India was not really something conducive to the citizens of India, neither did they want it. It was imposed by something called the Radcliffe Line, etc., etc. But the important thing to note is that the second reason, so for example, in the sense the colonial powers wanted to divide India into two parts, and there has to be a reason, and that reason was given to us in terms of Hindus cannot stay with Muslims. And this has created a lot of problems then on. Now, why is this important? Essentially, what is very important is that there are two kinds of information: the visible information and the invisible information. The interaction of this causes uncertainties and entropy. This information entropy is a little different kind of an entropy. It affects society, and we will call this social entropy. Thank you. Welcome to Urban Labs. I'm Professor Arnab Bose, and we also have Professor Abhinav Mehrotra today for a very important session on AI and war crimes, and this is a special Urban Labs podcast. So Professor Mehrotra, essentially what we are really interested to know is what in international law is war and what constitutes a war crime.
Thank you so much Professor Bose and everyone for inviting me and giving me the platform to express through our center, Center for UN Studies, where I'm Assistant Director and Professor Bose is Senior Fellow. We deal into the issues of how UN and other multilateral institutions deal with various issues, especially war crimes in the modern day context. To start with the basics, first of all of you should know what really entails in a war crime. The first aspect is the use of force. The use of force is defined in the various articles of the UN Charter, starting with Article 2.4, which talks about not using force that affects non-use of force that affects territorial integrity and political independence of any other state. So right now what you are seeing in the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict or the Israel-Palestine-Gaza conflict, it's a violation of Article 2.4. Second is, when we talk about international law, before I come to the definitional part of war crimes, because UN is the only organization where largely all member states are party to, and it's the only intergovernmental platform, very important, it's the only intergovernmental platform where all heads of the states meet and discuss on issues. So one of the major organs of United Nations is UN Security Council. So use of force, war crime cannot be understood without understanding what really is Security Council's function. So if you go into UN Charter, briefly read about it, Article 24 bestows the responsibility on Security Council to maintain international peace and security. Now this is a very broad term. What does international peace and security mean? It means there is respect for territorial integrity and political independence. Russia or Israel have violated the sovereignty of another country or another de facto territory. Gaza is not Palestine is not a country as of now, but it's still a member state, observer member state in the UN. Second is, where does the UN gets its power from? So if you refer to chapter 7, which talks about the actions that the Security Council can take, which are three situations which you all should understand, because war crimes fits into those criteria. Either there is a threat to peace, there is a breach of peace, or there is act of aggression. So Security Council is mandated to act whenever it ascertains all these situations are in place by using force. Very importantly, chapter 7 gives the power to Security Council to use force. But there is a very important catch which we will go after I complete the war crime definition. UNSC's actions have been vetoed. So war crimes, even though if they just assume there's a person who is has full strength, can act and can fight any issue, but is at the last moment stopped from fighting. So similarly, UNSC is paralyzed from acting in any of the situation because Russia vetoed itself. Why will it allow action against itself? And in Israel-Gaza conflict, the US has vetoed any action. I hope you all know who are the P5 members. Can you tell me who are the P5 members?
China.
Okay.
US.
US, yes.
Russia.
France.
China, Russia, US, France, and
UK.
Yes. So this.
I'll just come in. So we have China, Russia, UK, France. They're P5, but essentially the winners of World War II.
Yes.
Okay, so that is one challenge, and the world's largest democracy, the world's largest country in terms of population, is not a part of this permanent five. So that, of course, says a lot about the deficiency of the UN.
The underrepresentation of the UN or lack of universality of representation.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Just one particular thing, you said territorial integrity, which essentially means if a country is divided or any act which is there to negatively impact the territorial integrity of a country will be a war crime?
Will be, yes, it can be included because I'll come to very interesting point that Professor Bose has raised. So war crimes is defined under Article 8 of the Rome Statute. So war, again, I hope the Rome Statute is the statute under which the International Criminal Court was formed. India is not a party to the ICC, the statute. India is not bound by the ICC, but various other states are. There are 124 members as of now, including recently the Armenia's inclusion as a member because of the Armenia-Azerbaijan conflict that has happened. So what is important here is war crime includes, as Professor Bose mentioned, violation of integrity, acts like torture, acts like genocide. All these things are part where civilian population is affected. Right now, what you have seen in various conflicts, the civilian population, children are dying, women are dying, people are dying, disabled are dying, all sorts of individuals are dying right now. It is because the control is with the head of the commander who's giving. Crime of aggression is what? It's a crime committed by the person who heads the military, economic, political forces of a country. In this case, President Putin is the person who heads the military forces. Like in our country, head of the state heads the military forces, that is the president. But the real executive power is not with the president. But in Russia's context, president has the power to implement and execute the same as well. So war crimes, now taking from this point, when you violate someone's territorial integrity, violate political independence, it is a culmination or continuation of those violations. These violations are called common concerns of humankind, common crimes. So ICC has jurisdiction over 4 crimes as if now. There is a demand for a 5th crime, which is ecocide, but right now it has not been accepted in the statute. The 4 crimes are genocide, crimes against aggression, crimes against humanity, and anyone? Yes, crimes against humanity, genocide, war crimes, and
Religion?
huh?
Religion? That
No.
comes again.
Yes, try.
Territorial integrity.
No, that is larger principles under which these crimes violate. So crimes against humanity, war crimes, and crimes of aggression. So 4th crime is crime of aggression, which is included, which is a very difficult crime to adjudicate because the head of the state or the head of the forces is being talked about, where jurisdictional immunity also comes. Right now, prosecuting President Putin is a very difficult task because he is in power. But there are possibilities of at least, right, if you have heard, if you follow these things, there's an arrest warrant was issued against President Putin. So every one of the 124 members, if President Putin enters into that territory, is required to arrest him. So letting aside all these things, so war crimes is something where the violation of political independence, territorial integrity happens. So from 2008 to 2022, Russia has captured Georgia, Russia has captured Ukraine, and have certain territories which are de facto under control of Russia. What do you think is Taliban's rule right now? Taliban is also committing war crimes in a way. It's under de facto. It's not a government, but it has control over people and it has power. But it is not recognized in international law. So war crimes or crimes against humanity is something which affects the civilian population and affects the territorial integrity, political independence of the state in general.
Okay, so with respect to Taliban, though it is not an actor in international law, but we can attribute because it controls the state.
It can be held de facto responsible.
And how about non-state actors?
No, it's a non-state actor.
Okay, that is a
Taliban. That's a very interesting point. There is if you have studied international law in some respect, there is draft articles on state responsibility. Article 10 of that explicitly frames responsibility of such non-state actors because Taliban is an insurrectional movement, which is controlling people, controlling territory, but not recognized as a government. So it will be held liable even if it, say, positive time comes and the government is formed in Afghanistan after 4 or 5 years, whatever it is, it will be held responsible whatever it has done from 2021 till now.
Okay, so these things came into effect once the United Nations was formed. But in the 1940s perspective, was there any international law to look into war crimes?
Yes. There was the League of Nations, which preceded UN because of the World War I. League of Nations, World War II, sorry, the League of Nations collapsed and the UN came into the existence. So there were bodies, at that time it was not called war crimes per se, it was called crimes against peace.
Okay.
So I know the connotation is the same, but the nomenclature was slightly different.
I'll just come to 3 of them. What were these trials, like the Nuremberg trials, the Tokyo trials, and another one which was over here, which was the Delhi trials. So did they come under international law?
Delhi trials not so, but the other 2 yes, because the Nuremberg trials and the Tokyo trials, as you all know, as he also pointed out, the victors, the savage versus the saviors. The saviors were the one, including UK, US, and other states, which were prosecuting on behalf of the community. That time there was no UN, but the laws were being framed. We follow a lot of principles in international criminal law from those tribunals at that point of time, because individual criminal responsibility for the first time was fixed through these tribunals.
Okay.
So it's very important to understand war crimes, crimes against humanity. Basic definitional differences are there. Like genocide is based on certain characteristic of a large not one. It's a large population. So what is important is states violation, individuals violation, and who really is responsible for all of this. That is an important thing.
Anyway, thank you, Professor Mehrotra. I think it will be a very good session, and this is actually the first of the AI and war crimes session. Okay, the first one. And thank you so much for coming and answering our questions for the first Urban Labs podcast.
Thank you so much.